everyone, this is Peter Geray from ManageXValue.com. In this video, we are going to cover a topic that could be considered to be a technical topic around Monte Carlo simulation. However, I also think that it is very important to consider as soon as you elevate your focus from the analysis of an individual scenario or risk scenario to a portfolio of risks. So if you are in a role, or if you want to be in a role who focuses on all the potential cybersecurity risk events as a CISO, or all the risks within the organization as a CRO focusing on enterprise risk management, or the CEO who wants to understand everything that's going on around the business, this topic is important when you talk about risk quantification. So Monte Carlo simulation has always been a methodology that is very useful to understand the implications of uncertainty around assumptions, the implications on decisions. So Monte Carlo simulation has been picked up by the risk quantification community as well, and that's the methodology that generates the loss exceedance curve. However, there is a very important point here, which basically highlights that there is a significant difference in quantifications using Monte Carlo simulation when you analyze individual risks on with individual models, and then you are trying to pick numbers from those and then aggregate them for a portfolio view, versus running a Monte Carlo simulation on a holistic basis for the entire portfolio and making conclusions from those instances, or in this case, kind of like hypothetical years for the entire portfolio. So the best way to understand that is using the hierarchy view. Even though you see specific numbers, this is not a discrete model, still the Monte Carlo simulation is behind these numbers. The only thing here is that currently we are looking at the expected or the average cases for the Monte Carlo simulation, because often for decisions the expected case is very important or very useful to see. However, you may actually end up in situations when you want to stress test your model or your organization. If you are a bank, you have capital adequacy requirements. You want to stress test what is the worst case that can happen for the business. And in that case, you may switch to, for example, the maximum value. This highlights the potential worst case for the entire portfolio. This is a hypothetical year. What's the potential worst case scenario for a given year? What is the maximum loss exposure for the organization? However, there is an area here, the portfolio focus, which is currently on an aggregate basis. Because this looks at the model or the portfolio and then captures the potential worst case scenario for the entire portfolio. However, we can switch it to the element view, in which case you can see that the overall risk went up significantly. So previously it was $3.5 billion for this organization, and then if we switch to an element base, it becomes 5.4 billion almost. It is because instead of looking at the worst case scenario for the entire portfolio, in the element view, it takes the worst case of the lowest level building blocks within the hierarchy and then aggregates those worst cases. So this is the absolute worst case indeed. However, this is significantly higher than the overall portfolio view, but it is because whenever you have a portfolio of risks, you have the benefit, the portfolio benefit, that it is quite unlikely that all of the potential risk areas become the worst case nightmares for the business. The likelihood of this happening is quite low in any Monte Carlo simulation. That really everything has the worst case scenario. Another very interesting insight though that you can get from this comes out in the risk events. Even though this is not always the case, but in this situation this can be relevant. In the risk event view, you can see that the hierarchy focuses on enterprise risk areas, but within the enterprise risk, client data events have the most significant values. And if I switch back to the aggregate view, you can see that out of the $3.5 billion, 2.8 almost billion focuses on client data events, within which the loss of client data is the most significant loss of investment banking client data, and then the high sensitivity investment banking client data. The other building blocks here, or elements, or in this case specific risk events, have lower values than this. And the interesting point is that when we switch to the element view, which takes the absolute worst case from all the potential risk events, now the loss of high sensitivity investment client data risk event didn't change, while the others went up. So this basically means that you may have similar situations in your organization that the worst case year for the entire business really depends on the worst case scenario of one particular risk area. And then you want to take attention to those, because if you address this scenario or this risk event specifically with risk mitigation investments, then there is a higher chance that you mitigate the worst case scenario that drives your stress testing results and capital adequacy requirements and so on the most. So in this situation, it is very useful to focus on the loss of high sensitivity investment client data risk event. Of course, this is just an example within this demo. For your organization, this may be different. But again, overall, as a conclusion, the takeaway from this video for you is that if you are focusing on a portfolio of risk areas, you want to really understand when you are stress testing your portfolio, whether the measures you are getting from your risk teams focus on the aggregation of the worst cases of all the risk events that they have analyzed. The likelihood of that for a portfolio is low that that's happening, versus running a Monte-Carlo simulation on a holistic basis and then looking at the worst case scenario for the entire portfolio. I hope you like this information, even though this has been quite technical. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, and set your notifications so you get the future videos. If you are interested in a more detailed demo of the platform, please head over to managexvalue.com and request one, and we would be happy to provide you one. Thank you very much.